Hello there and welcome to this video essay exploring a topic that, frankly, doesn't get nearly enough attention. The ongoing plight of Eritrean refugees. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people forced from their homes, often fleeing a deeply troubled nation with, shall we say, a complicated relationship with human rights. Today we're diving into the history of Eritrean refugees and the key factors that have driven so many to seek safety beyond their borders. We'll examine the tumultuous past that set the stage for this crisis, from a brutal war for independence to a simmering border conflict that seems determined to outlive us all. And trust me, when I say simmering, it's less a cozy pot of stew and more like a volcano perpetually threatening to blow its top. Buckle up, because we're about to unpack a story of forced migration, political instability, and the resilience of a people caught in the crosshairs. This is a story that deserves to be heard, so let's get into it, shall we? Now, you might think a country nestled in the Horn of Africa, known for scorching deserts and ancient history, wouldn't exactly be a hotbed of military activity. You'd be wrong, my friend, tragically wrong. See, Eritrea has this delightful little program, and by delightful, I mean the exact opposite, where military service isn't just a patriotic duty, it's basically a life sentence. Forget 2 years of community service, or whatever they're calling it these days. We're talking indefinite conscription, often under horrific conditions. Imagine being forced to put your life on hold, year after year, with no end in sight. Not ideal, right? And that's not even getting into the reports of forced labor, human rights abuses, and the general sense that your own government sees you less as a citizen and more like a cog in a very broken machine. It's no surprise that this system has become a major driving force behind the exodus of Eritreans. Who could blame them for wanting to escape a situation where their freedom is held hostage in the name of national security? It's less a national service and more like national servitude, wouldn't you say? Imagine fighting a decades-long war for independence, only to find yourself embroiled in another brutal conflict with your neighbor almost immediately after. That's the grim reality for Eritrea, a country whose history reads like a masterclass in how not to treat your neighbors. The Eritrean-Ethiopian border war, which erupted in 1998, was a conflict so senseless, so pointlessly destructive, that it makes the Hatfields and McCoys look like a model of peaceful coexistence. This wasn't just some border skirmish either. We're talking full-blown trench warfare, tens of thousands dead, and a level of animosity between the two countries that could curdle your morning coffee. The war officially ended in 2000, but the scars run deep, with tensions remaining high, and both sides stuck in a perpetual state of military standoff. It's the kind of lingering conflict that makes you wonder if anyone involved actually remembers what they're fighting about anymore. Spoiler alert, they probably don't. So you've fled a country with a conscription policy that makes the Hotel California look like a charming B&B, narrowly avoided being caught in the crossfire of a seemingly endless border war. Where do you even begin to rebuild your life? For many Eritreans, the answer, sadly, is nowhere good. Neighboring countries like Ethiopia and Sudan, already grappling with their own sets of challenges, became the first destinations for those seeking refuge. But let's be clear, fleeing to a neighboring country doesn't exactly scream luxury vacation. These are often temporary solutions at best, with refugees facing overcrowding, limited resources, and the constant threat of being sent back to the very dangers they escaped. It's a precarious existence caught between a rock and a very, very hard place. Now let's talk about refugee camps, shall we? They're often touted as these beacons of hope, temporary havens for those seeking safety. And while they can be life-saving in the short term, the reality is often far more grim. Imagine living in a makeshift tent, exposed to the elements, with limited access to clean water, sanitation, or healthcare. It's not exactly what you'd call ideal living conditions, is it? For Eritrean refugees, this is the daily reality for far too many. Overcrowding, disease outbreaks, and a lack of basic necessities are all part and parcel of life in these camps. The mental toll of living in limbo, separated from loved ones and uncertain of what the future holds, adds another layer of hardship to an already dire situation. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit that anyone can endure such conditions, but endurance shouldn't be the bar for human dignity, should it? For a select few, resettlement to countries like the United States, Canada, or those elusive European nations offers a glimmer of hope, a chance at a fresh start. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, shall we? The resettlement process is often agonizingly slow, bogged down by bureaucratic hurdles and constantly shifting political winds. It's enough to make even the most patient person want to scream into the void. And even for those fortunate enough to be resettled, the journey is far from over. Adapting to a new language, culture, and way of life presents its own set of challenges. Imagine leaving everything you've ever known behind, starting from scratch in a foreign land. It takes immense courage, determination, and a healthy dose of dark humor to navigate such a monumental transition. Just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region erupted in late 2020, adding yet another layer of complexity to the Eritrean refugee crisis. Imagine fleeing your home country, seeking refuge in a neighboring nation, only to find yourself caught in the crossfire of another brutal conflict. It's the kind of cruel twist of fate that would make even the most optimistic person question the universe's sense of humor. Sadly, for Eritrean refugees in Tigray, this nightmare scenario became a reality. They faced targeted attacks, forced repatriation, and unspeakable human rights abuses. It was a stark reminder that even in exile, the threat of violence and persecution can follow you like a shadow, no matter how far you run. Now, amidst all this turmoil, there is a glimmer of, well, if not hope, then at least a slightly less bleak reality. Uganda, a country not exactly known for its abundance of resources, has emerged as a surprising beacon for Eritrean refugees. They've adopted a relatively open-door policy, allowing refugees to work, move freely, and even access land for farming. It's a refreshing change of pace, a reminder that compassion and humanity can still prevail even in the darkest of times. However, the situation remains fragile. Uganda, like many countries hosting refugees, faces its own set of economic and social challenges. The influx of refugees, while manageable for now, puts a strain on resources and infrastructure. The long-term sustainability of this haven remains an open question, a delicate balancing act between compassion and pragmatism. The story of Eritrean refugees is a complex tapestry woven from threads of conflict, displacement, resilience, and a desperate search for safety and dignity. It's a story that often gets lost in the cacophony of global crises, overshadowed by more headline-grabbing events. But it's a story that deserves to be told, understood, and acted upon. Understanding the plight of Eritrean refugees is crucial in addressing the broader issues of forced migration and human rights. These are not just statistics, they're real people, with real lives, hopes, and dreams, who have been robbed of their homes, their livelihoods, and their sense of security. Their stories are a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict, political instability, and our collective failure to address the root causes of displacement. Thank you for watching, and stay informed.